It's another installment of Trillium Talk across the Village Media Network and available wherever you get your favorite podcast. I'm Scott Sexsmith and very pleased, as always, to have with us from our team at the Trillium, Editor-in-Chief, Jessica Smith-Cross. Good to have you back, Jess.
Good to be back.
All right, it's been a busy week. Jess, let's start with the big news of the week, and that being the Ford government's decision to close 10 supervised consumption sites and ban any new ones. Now, before we get into those for and against this move, let's start with the announcement from Minister Jones itself. What did she say, and what does it all mean?
Okay, so the province is closing 10 supervised consumption sites, places where people who use drugs can go to use them, where somebody is there to try to reverse their overdose or to successfully reduce their overdose if they do overdose. There's other things that happen in these sites. You can get, if you want to get into treatment, that's a first place where people who want to do that can go. There are other resources that are connected through these places. So the minister launched a review of these places after there was a shooting near one in Leslieville in Toronto, and decided to close down all the ones that are within 200 meters of schools, which includes the one in Leslieville that kicked this off. She announced at the same time that the government is going to spend some $370 million on creating what they're calling HART hubs, so places that offer services to people who are homeless and who have addiction issues, but do not include any safe supply, any supervised consumption, and any needle exchange.
Now, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just the shut down consumption sites will have the first crack at turning into HART hubs within a year.
All right. Now, the government indicated that it consulted with stakeholders before coming to this decision. Yet the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario has come out and said this is a death sentence. The Centre for Addiction and Mental Health says these sites are life-saving. And interestingly, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the board of directors there, says they weren't even asked to weigh in. So it begs the question, who exactly did the province consult?
Well, we don't know for sure. I mean, the entirety of it. They did get a supervisor into the site in Leslieville, and they got Unity Health to do a review. They posted those reviews online, and actually they recommended an expansion of consumption treatment sites. There's also a third report, though, that was the community consultation report that Unity did, which acknowledges that everybody who lives near the one in Leslieville almost wanted it moved or shut down. So that's the big tension with these sites, right? That overall, everybody who does healthcare with this vulnerable population says they help save lives, but people who live near them don't like them, right? They talk about increased crime and disorder. It's a huge debate whether there's a chicken and the egg thing. That the sites were placed where there was already pre-existing public drug use. Do they then become a magnet and make things worse? That's certainly how the people who live near them feel. I live not that far, but not that close to the one where the shooting occurred. It's like my kid's favorite coffee shop, but it's also not right in my backyard. So I have a sense of, sometimes you walk past and you're going to hold your kid a little closer if there's somebody who's yelling and screaming outside. Like that obviously happens. And the shooting happened. Shootings also happen in other places in the city, unfortunately. It's a quagmire of an issue, but the government has made a really strong stand where it stands. The premier came out and said, we listen to the neighbors. That's who we listen to. That's why we're shutting them down near schools.
I know you've spent some time with Barrie mom Christine Naylor, who lost her son Ryan to a drug overdose back in November of 2020. And since then, she has been a very strong advocate for safe consumption sites. What were her comments following the announcement from the health minister?
Yeah, so I first heard her a few months back. She came to Queen's Park with other mothers who lost kids to toxic drugs. And, they were standing in the rain outside of Queen's Park, speaking on a microphone, trying to be heard. And she basically said, I was an early childhood educator, and now I do this. I stand before people and I lay bare my grief and try to stop anybody from having to go through this again. The pain of losing a child. It affected me. I'm a human being and a journalist. And so when this announcement was made, I called her up and I wanted her take. And perhaps unsurprisingly, there's some anger there at the politicians who made these decisions. she makes the argument that they have to go beyond. The regular person can view this sort of thing with some stigma. It happens, they shouldn't, but politicians really shouldn't. They should listen to the facts and the evidence that say these save lives, and that's got to come first over the other concerns. She and other advocates also say they do reduce public disorder, that, having people use drugs inside rather than where else are they going to go would reduce that. Obviously, the people who live near the site say have them use drugs anywhere but here, near my house.
All right, let's shift gears and talk elections and the widespread speculation about when and if Doug Ford will call the next provincial election. His party has started the process of searching out and vetting candidates. What do we know at this point, Jess?
Well, it seems to be on, which is exciting for us, because who doesn't love an election if you're a political reporter? What this means is that the PCs are starting their process. So anybody who's a current MPP has to declare if they're going to run again. And the riding associations where there's no sitting MPP have to start their candidate search. So people who want to run have to start thinking now whether they do or not, and if they're going to do it. The other parties are also doing this. It started back last spring when Doug Ford kicked off the speculation of an early election. So yeah, everybody's really busy behind the scenes in Ontario politics right now. People with ambitions are gearing up. It's going to start getting real for us reporters, and here we are.
All right, the troops are getting ready for battle, as they say. For the most comprehensive coverage of Ontario politics anywhere, simply log on and become a Trillium Insider today at thetrillium.ca. Always great to have our editor-in-chief, Jessica Smith-Cross, join us. Thanks for this, Jess, as always, and have a great week.
Thanks, Scott.